Hello, everyone. My name is Devin Rue. I'm a professional fantasy cartographer and illustrator in the tabletop RPG industry, as well as your host for the Quip and Quill podcast.
Hi, I'm Ricky. I also go by Hailiiz online, and I specialize in fantasy portraits and have the most fun with Dungeons & Dragons character artwork.
Nice. And what do people most know you for?
Probably my Dungeons & Dragons character work. I know a lot of my community came in actually when I drew my own character Baxter, but I also started growing after I started doing Critical Role fan art, and I was on a lot of the art spots. So probably the Critical Role portraits that I fan arted.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's how all of my guests, at one point or another, a lot of people on here so far have been people that I know from Critical Role. So, what can I say?
They did a lot for artists. It's actually pretty incredible. I would not be an artist today. I say this a lot, but I would not be working as a full-time artist without everything that Critical Role has done in sharing my work. So
Right.
Love them.
I was doing it full-time before them, but I wouldn't be as well known, I think. I don't know. I shouldn't say that because Matt likes to argue with me about it, but
I'm sure you would have. I'm sure. Like I'm going to admit, I actually don't know of any other cartographers. So I feel like you would have, because your work is phenomenal.
I was booked for 2 solid years straight before I even got announced on Critical Role. And like Matt and I have had this conversation because I was like, I always want to give credit where it's due, and without Critical Role, I don't think I would have any of the accolades that I do now. And he was like, that's not true. And I was like, no, seriously. I was like, hey, I have my first Wizards of the Coast book with you. And he's like, yeah, but they're not the first map you did. And I went, no, but that will never see the light of day because they didn't go forward with the project. But yeah, but we've had those conversations, and I think for me, Critical Role made a tremendous difference to bringing me to a whole group of people that would never really think about fantasy cartography before. So even if I was booked, or even if my name had been out there, I don't think it would be with the same sort of enthusiasm as I have. So
I could absolutely see myself as well. I don't know if I would have gotten into fantasy portrait work if I shouldn't say if I hadn't gotten into Critical Role. I started getting into Dungeons & Dragons in September 2020, and I did my first Critical Role portrait, which was my Jester portrait, which was the first one that started kind of getting my name out there. I honestly imagined that I would be drawing a lot more original artwork, and I wouldn't have to turn to the good old nerdy place that I definitely prefer to be in and love now. So it's really crazy to think about the difference in your whole life that could have happened without Critical Role. And I get it. I understand that Matt wants to probably be humble. Yes. I mean, I don't know him, but he definitely seems very humble. But yeah, I don't know if I would be where I am or here without all of that in 2020 that happened. So pretty incredible. I get the humble, but gotta take the compliments.
Exactly. I mean, I think the other thing is he's really, really good with wanting to, like, he's like, yeah, we might have been a vehicle for it, but nothing gets you there like your own skills.
Mm-hmm. A vehicle, I like that.
Yeah.
My first piece of artwork, or I shouldn't say my first piece of artwork, the first thing that I did that made me realize that I could potentially make a career out of it actually wasn't fantasy at all. It was one day there was this cosplayer that I really like. Her name is Jessica Negri. This was a long time ago, well before I got into Dungeons & Dragons, and I was home one day from work. I was not mentally well, and she had made a post, hey guys, post your artwork and I'd love to work with someone for my Patreon this month. So I posted mine and I tagged her, and I went to sleep during the middle of the day, and I woke up and she was in my DMs. And it was at that moment that I realized, hey, like maybe I should pursue this more. Then I decided to be a full-time artist, and then it didn't take off until I started doing the Critical Role portraits, which is really cool. And critters are amazing and I love them.
I work with numerous fandoms, whether they're for authors or movies or books or whatever. And let me tell you, I hands down, critters are absolutely fucking phenomenal. From their sheer enthusiasm to their desire to be as accommodating as possible. You know, like whenever working with me, or like or being just generally understanding, like, you know, about the limitations that I have with the maps that I create, because they are under an IP and I don't have the freedom. I would love to draw dicks in all of the maps, but Jester is not a cartographer and I can't pretend to be her.
Has someone asked you to do that?
There's been numerous jokes because of all the little things that I hide in the other maps that I make. So my big thing is I will always have whoever I'm creating a map for, I want to have their voice. You know, as much as it's in my style of drawing, I want their voice. I want them to feel like they have complete control over what is on the map. And if they give me freedom, awesome. But if not, then I'm like, okay, then I don't, you know. I've had people like make jokes about, you know, me drawing like a dick on one of the maps. And I was like, I can't do that. One, that's just me being selfish. And two, I haven't been asked by Matt to draw a dick on any map yet.
I keep imagining that maybe one day, I hope they do, they could ask you to make one, because I mean, Jester's a pirate now. She's on the seas. She could be drawing her own maps.
She could be, but I would like to believe that if she is a cartographer, that she's a more accurate one than just drawing a dick, because unless it is an actual dick-shaped island, which there is one in real life, and it's called Dick Island.
Actually?
Yeah.
I will have to Google that. Here, I'm going to write that down.
Okay.
I'm sure. I love the idea of my partner coming in and just seeing Dick Island written in all caps on my notepad. I love that. It's actually funny you say that, because one of the things, something I talk about a lot with my commissioners, and we were talking about this earlier, whereas you prefer email, I prefer Discord. I prefer Discord because I can pin it and it's just easier for me to find. I get lost in emails. And when I'm talking to my commissioners, I always tell them that commission work is teamwork, specifically because I'm drawing a character that in your mind is your best friend and you know them, you are them. I'm just the person drawing it. So I request a lot of references and it's really, really cool. I'll get Pinterest boards, I'll get whole backstories. I'll ask people, hey, do they have a different nose shape, eyebrow shape, everything? Do you have a face claim? And I think it's really, really cool. I actually have a commissioner right now, the best organized commission references I have ever received.
I'm actually kind of the opposite. I ask for the absolute minimum. Tell me the minimum that you need. And if you want something, because specifically most people don't necessarily know what they want to fill in particular areas. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, not a problem. Give me what you have, and everything from there, I've got a wild imagination and completely fill it out. But I think a map is a little bit different than drawing a person.
Yeah. I mean, I have also received ones where they're like, can I give you a base idea and have you create it in your own vision? And I love those too. Those are equally super fun. I think I like the... As you know, I'm a very anxious person. So I think I like having the step-by-step on what someone else is imagining. Though I have had a lot of fun creating characters for other people with their base idea. I recently did one. It was a super hot pirate lady. And he gave me a color theme. He gave me her weapon and he gave me the face claim and a whole bunch of different outfit pictures. And I went crazy and it was super fun. So really depends. Depends, I guess.
Do me a quick favor and explain to people what a face claim is.
For sure. So a face claim is someone that you imagine for your character. You can have a different face claim, body claim, for example. My character Baxter, who I was talking about earlier, she's this super cute blue girl. Her face claim is this beautiful actress named Emily Browning. So for me, I do what I like to call semi-realistic stylized portraits. So I like to have a celebrity or a model, someone where there's already a lot of references of their face at different angles as the face claim, I do find it easier. It is not necessary. Like I said before, someone can send like, these are their eyebrows, this is their nose shape, all separately as well. But yeah, face claims usually a celebrity, preferably.
Just because I know I'll have someone go, what is a face claim? You know, so I figure out.
Yeah, I get that question all the time.
Well, the first one, someone did it to me as well. I had a friend of mine that was like, so what's a face claim for this? I was like, what do you mean? You know, she's like, for your character. I was like, yeah, no, I still, what do you mean? What the fuck is a face claim?
I love it. I actually, my character Baxter and her boyfriend, they both have face claims, Emily Browning, and why am I blanking on his name right now? Henry Cavill. He and Emily Browning. So now in my head, like when I'm picturing them interacting, like I see those two, which is so fun. It is not a necessity in any way, shape, or form, right. But I think it's really cool. And then I'll see, you know, GIFs or videos of the people, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Ebros, it's Baxter. It's very exciting.
Right. Yeah. I don't think I have anything that's like that. Like my once my maps are done, that's it. They live in my imagination or in someone else's game, except for Exandria. I get to live there all the time.
That's true. Do you have any characters yourself that you have a full vision of the character?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so I have a fantastic group that I brag about all the time on this podcast. So I'm a forever GM, but I get to play my own characters and NPCs. But I do have, I shouldn't say I'm a forever GM. I am with that group. But I have an awesome DM as well who I've got to play in Exandria and stuff as a player, which just makes me way too excited. But mostly an evil pirate queen, because that's just my vibe.
Yes, I love that. I had one pirate character. I don't know if I'll ever get to play her again, but it is so good. I love a good hot pirate lady.
I actually am thinking. So I had another character that I sort of played in a long campaign that I had years ago. Who's sort of also based very, very extremely loosely on a female character in history. And then I started writing bits and pieces of a story for her. And now I'm like, I think I'm going to eventually get portraits done of her and just make it a full-on thing and that people can read my smutty pirate adventures online.
That's so cool. You should absolutely do that. I love sharing the stories that I write for my characters. I actually have started, I shouldn't say have started. For a while now, I've been posting like the process video of the portrait I'll do for my character. And then I'll share their backstory narrated in the background. I'm not a pro. I do my best. Right. And I also offer that for commissioners. If I quite like a piece, I'll say, hey, if you're interested, I could do a backstory video. I'll tell them the length. They have to practice reading it out loud so I know that it fits within the timeline, and I share their backstory too. And it's, I don't know, I think it's so fun. I love hearing characters' backstories.
You know, I thought of doing that like some time ago because I had somebody else. I've done some voice work for other people, namely friends of mine who are absolutely hilarious but amazing GMs themselves. And I made a map for somebody and they wanted me to do like a whole narration because they were playing it for their players. I think in Roll20, I don't remember. And so they got to hear my voice in the background describing the map and what it looked like and everything else of the area that they came to. And my friend's like, why don't you do that for a living? And I was like, who the fuck has that time?
I mean, did you enjoy it?
Oh, I loved it.
I mean, it's there if you ever get bored or if you ever have a little extra time. I will say, like I said earlier, I think you are very eloquent. Oh, wow. Eloquent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
When you speak, that would be magical. I'm just imagining sitting down for the first time in a campaign and suddenly there's like a camera zoom over a map and it's your voice. Sounds good to me. That'd be great.
If I could ever figure out how to, well, you know what? I don't even want to master creating videos. I need someone else to do it. I'll just narrate over it because I don't have that time. I've already learned plenty of software.
Yeah,
I'm done.
I get it. I had actually been talking to someone. I had hired someone to make my intro and raid video for Twitch, and they were a great editor and I would love to work with them sometime for my YouTube videos, but it is tough. It's expensive, as it should be. I
Right.
was making them by myself previously, but you're right. It's so time consuming. And especially when you really just, if you want to be drawing as an artist, I think it is best if you draw. But as an
Right.
artist, you wear so many hats when you're trying to make it your career.
Yep.
Yep, we all know this. It's it can be a lot.
Right. And the other thing is, like, the majority of the people, at least that I've talked to, we are so obsessed with paying other artists their worth that it's like, I would kill to have you do this, but I don't have the money for it, and I
Yes.
refuse to pay you less, and I won't let you do it for free. You know?
I'm so glad you're saying that. That is so true. I've had so many people. I've even had like friends reach out and be like, "Hey, like I can like be an assistant like for free. I would love to just help you." And I'm like, "No, I can't do that, because that's not only do I want to be able to pay somebody to help me, but I want to not feel guilty if I'm asking them for something."
Yeah.
So there's levels to it. I actually did not technically hire, but I'm paying I don't know if you know this, I have a twin sister. I love her to death. We live in the same building. I am paying her to help me with social media. We only have done it for a week so far, but man, oh man, it's nice. It is helpful, even if it's not everything, but I can't afford much right now, and at least I can afford something. And it's nice that it's my sister, because I trust her. I also have a fear of people. We were talking about this earlier. Common sense is not particularly common. And the fear of people being great for a moment and then switching over, which I've experienced a lot in my I'm 27. I always forget my age. Don't judge me. My 27
I'm the
years of
same
life.
way.
Okay, I had to message my twin sister. Hey, how old are we? Like a handful of months ago. Peak embarrassment, but
I ask my wife all the time. I'm like, wait, how old am I? And she's like, she'll tell me, because she always knows. And everyone else just looks at me like I'm got something wrong. And I'm like, listen, I have a really hard time with the passage of time. I forget. And unless there's something significant about it, like I now remember I'm 50, because 50 is a big deal. So like, I can remember that. But between 45 and 50, I could not remember how fucking old I was.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. I wonder if it's an artist thing. Like I said, we're wearing many hats. Our brains are full. We're tired.
Right.
And we don't usually work a 9 to 5. We work a 12 to 12 some days. Like,
Plus, I think that time for us is a little bit different. Like, not only because, like, especially when you do work at home, like, it's easy for days to kind of like mesh into each other. But like, also when you are living in your imagination so much, like the concept of reality doesn't necessarily exist the same way as I think it does for other people who are just naturally live in reality more than we do.
Yes, I 100% agree.
Yeah, so I just kind of like slip in there and I forget that like time is passing in the real world.
The only reason I know the day of the week is because I play D&D Monday, Tuesday, every second Wednesday, and every Friday. That is the only reason I'm aware of the day of the week. Otherwise, I'm lost.
What? How?
I have a problem.
Yes. You know what? I can't say anything because I used to play 5 games a week.
Yeah. I used to play, I was playing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'd watch Critical Role on Thursday, and then I also played Friday, Saturday. So I was playing more before. Down to, how many did I say? 4 to 3 a week, depending.
Right.
But I will say, you get lost in the characters when you play that many. I get lost in the stories, and while I love playing more, I don't think I should ever do it again.
Yeah, no, this I did 5 games a week. 3 of which I GM'd, 2 of which I was a player in.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, I was absolutely obsessed, and I was a LARPer.
Wow.
So, during LARPing season, because New York is fucking cold, during LARPing season, so when the weather's nicer, like you go out for weekends and this is your event. or sometimes longer, depending on the events that you can go to. And I was mildly obsessed as well, so I fully understand. I can't imagine how I had a full-time job and GM'd 3 games every week and played in 2, and slept.
Wow. It's the GMing multiple times a week for me. Like that, don't get me wrong, playing a lot is already a lot.
Right.
But was it the same game?
No.
Whoa. Different worlds?
No.
Okay. That's a lot. My Monday DM, my beautiful friend Ellie, she's the person who introduced me to Dungeons and Dragons, and their first ever campaign is still ongoing. That's my character Amryn. And she was doing multiple DMing a week, and we had to. I think she's up to 2 now, but there's so much planning that goes in D&D. I honestly don't know how you did it with a full-time job as well. You're basically a wizard now, officially.
Well, I think it depends on. So, a perfect example is I still GM for a group that I've basically been playing with for 20 years, and now I have very little prepping to do. One, because we're playing in an established world, although I am contemplating bringing them over to Daggerheart after we've play tested it more, just for fun, because we occasionally just decide to switch systems because, why not add to the chaos? So we although now they kind of already know how the world is, they already have established things, and we are in a long, oh god, I don't remember how long this campaign has been going on for, but it's been quite some time. So everything is already kind of done, except for when we have encounters or information that they don't currently have. And now I'm going to plug our sponsor, because I use Legend Keeper, and so you can Legend Keeper, basically it allows you to do a lot of world building. And one of my favorite things about it is that you can give specific roles to people that you invite on your project with you. And as the project owner, I'm the only one who has to pay for it. And then my players, or whoever I invite, have free access. So they don't have to pay for it. So it's not like everyone's paying in, thankfully. But I can grant them roles, including admin roles or editing roles. So we have a lore keeper in our group who just magically has pages that appear because I get to click a single button, and all new lore that I've just got done spewing, or something that they've read in a book, just magically appears under their column of knowledge in Legend Keeper now.
That's so cool.
Right. So I got to, way beforehand, I got to write out a ton of stuff. I have books, I have and they also get to determine they kind of share responsibilities with me now. As a matter of fact, all of my players technically do. Everybody sort of has a role in our game and in our world. So our lore keeper actually knows specific things ahead of time, but their character is an archivist or archivist, however you want to say it, librarian. So they already have a ton of this knowledge, so they get to share it with other people depending. So now they basically play by themselves, and I'm just sort of there to occasionally throw things at them that they weren't expecting, but that's about it.
That's so cool. I was actually looking into, it's called Legend Keeper or Lore Keeper?
Legend Keeper. Yeah.
Legend Keeper. I was looking into it when I first started listening to your podcast, and I haven't gotten it yet. I'm using a different app right now, but I would love to switch over if I get to it, because I'm doing some world building. I have not DM'd a campaign. I've DM'd some one-shots, but I am doing some world building, and that sounds so convenient. So that's really awesome.
If you use the code QuillKeepers, you get a whole month free.
Ooh, so it's a monthly payment?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't remember if they have an annual or not.
I'm an annual baby.
No, I know the same way.
Yeah, I get so nervous about that monthly payment, so I usually just do the annual.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't remember if they do, and I believe they have a Patreon, I want to say.
Okay.
And it is, oh God, they also have a Discord to make it super easy in case you get lost or don't know how to do something. So that's absolutely and they're an extremely helpful group of people. I love them to pieces, but yeah, they're actually not as it's not expensive either. I think it's like at best $10 a month, I think.
Bad. Yeah. I have a lot of monthlies. The 2024, there's so many things and just builds and builds. I was going to say, you were saying that you might switch over to Daggerheart for a couple of games, or whatever it might be. I wish I had a story for myself, but I only play 5e. But I do have a friend that is in a campaign where, for some reason, I don't know if they got bored, and their DM is obsessing with soccer at the moment, like the sport of soccer. So they moved into this world where they are now soccer players, and that I literally learned this like 2 days ago, and I just think that that's so funny. That's so random. So yeah, I love the idea of like moving your campaign over. Would you move your characters over too, or would it be a pause of the campaign and play new characters?
Well, that's going to be up to my players. So most of the time when I run campaigns, we play where there is an overarching storyline in the world. Now, my players can choose to interact with it or not, or do something about it or not, and it continues regardless of their interaction with it, and they're aware of this. Now, there was a time where they thought it would just magically stand still and wait for them to get done with whatever little side quests they were doing.
Oh no.
Yeah, no, they learned real quickly that's not how that works.
Yeah, been there.
Yeah. But they can choose to, as long as that storyline kind of comes to an arc, they kind of decide where they want to go next. So like a perfect example is we finished our last arc not too long ago. I want to say like the middle of last year. And so because of it, there was they discovered that maybe they shouldn't be so aggressive or so quick to turn to violence.
Yep.
So they're now taking a very not aggressive approach to things lately, which means I've had to do like a lot of puzzles and everything else, which I love to do. So even better. But because of it, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I love the idea of characters and players learning that I mean, even if you're not running on an XP game, which is definitely not a preference of mine, it's what's the other word? The other one that everybody does?
Milestone.
Even if you're running on a milestone, I love the idea that there are consequences for your actions, and a lot of players play like a video game, especially when they're new, and they don't consider that. One of my favorite campaigns, the only one that has finished that I've ever played that finished, or I shouldn't say the only one, but my favorite one that's finished. We only got to level 5. It was just my twin sister and one of my best friends and my partner DMing. They were quick. They were quick to attack, and they quickly learned that is not always the best route. And I think it's very interesting to watch that growth in a character and a player.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that when we all started playing as a group, because our group has kind of seen like, different variations over the years, and but our core group is me and 4 players, and it's interesting because not only are we have so much trust in each other that there's pretty much anything that we want to explore, we can. And sometimes we really just want to go in and, attack everything. I don't fucking feel like asking a question, And so we've played like villainous campaigns and everything. But I think the time that kind of altered the way that they look at the games that we played was we had finished a campaign They had started new characters. They were in a different part of the world, and they encountered somebody who was essentially a villain, but they found out that this villain even occurred because of their previous character, that in an effort to wipe out the villain of that campaign, basically annihilated a small village in the middle of the battle. And as far as the villagers were concerned, that quote unquote hero decimated their town.
Oh.
And yeah, so my players, like, it took them a moment to like, wait a minute, what? You know, and then it sunk in. Like, I love to say the phrase, you might be a hero of your story, but you're the villain of someone else's.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love trauma in games. I don't like real life trauma, please no, but in games I want you to make me cry. And I'm very lucky. My DM on Tuesdays is my partner of 13 years and he knows that. And I've had a good many cries, and when you start to realize something that's just either a consequence of your action or even just a sad part of the story and it's kind of clicking together, just traumatize me. That's what I tell all my DMs. I'm cool with that. I've played a game before where the DM, I don't play it anymore, and the DM had failed to kind of give a session 0 and let new players, because I came in late, let new players know of any triggers or anything like that, which I do prefer to know. I mean, then again, I should have asked, but this was a while ago.
Right.
And I really didn't think better of it at the time. But anyways, because of that, I made a character with, I mean, in my opinion, a very boring backstory. And the character was cute, but I definitely had less fun without the trauma. I love me some trauma.
See, I think it depends. Like, there's times where, so like right now we're playtesting Daggerheart, and when one of my patrons is GMing the session, which is just amazing, and I'm so excited. But we were talking about like what kind of campaign we want, and I was like, this needs to be whimsical. I don't really know anyone else at the table. I don't want to be like too heavy into the drama, you know. And so like let's just keep it light and fun and whimsical, and then also because we're playtesting something that I don't know how broken it might be. So I'm like, before we like go into a deep thespian monologue each, let's take it back a step and like just be goofy little characters. And but I also think I absolutely love, I'm so heavy into role playing, obviously, because I'm a LARPer. I love when you can find a group where it's okay to say, like, traumatize me. You know, like, because there's so many GMs out there that have this story that they absolutely want to tell. And one of the things that sometimes frustrates me as a player is they're more focused on telling the story they want than listening to what their players want.
Yes.
And it's like, this is a form of railroading, even if you don't necessarily see it that way. You have a story that you're going to absolutely keep telling, and it's okay, like, to a degree, because like I said, in my own world, we have an ongoing world crisis that my players can choose to interact with on any level they want. But it's continuing without them. So they hear news about it. If they don't interact with it, they still hear about it. But I'm not, and it will eventually get to a point, if they don't do anything, where it will kind of encroach in areas. Like, they already know where it is, so it's going to take a natural progression across the world. And maybe not the entire world, but at least that area. So they already know, like, it's going to affect, you know, they're going to have to come in contact with it sooner or later. So, but it's also not like no matter what they do, they come in contact with it.
Yeah.
And so many GMs do that. And I was like, please don't.
I've had one in the past that was very adamant about following the module, which I respect, and I get it. But as players, if you are completely following the module, you will run into railroading problems because your players may decide to go do something completely off their rocker, like completely off
Right.
the list of what's in the module.
Right. Especially if you don't read it. Like if you don't give your players like, hey, this is what you need to do, which also doesn't ever really sound like fun to me. I'm sure that there's people who really enjoy that part, but I don't.
I know, same.
So, yeah.
I love the idea that the characters are the ones making the choices, and I love that you don't force your characters to go deal with this thing. They can choose to be proactive or not, which in the end, I mean, depending, could also make them evil. Who knows?
Right. They've actually
hired
they've hired other adventurers to help deal with it. So they could go do their side quests. And I was like, hey, if that's what you want to do, that's entirely your choice.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that if people play games like it isn't interactive storytelling,
right,
that's when it becomes not fun anymore.
Right.
Because it's a group story. My favorite story ever, the one that I always, whenever I'm trying to explain to people how Dungeons and Dragons works, I talk about a story Brennan Lee Mulligan shared about how he had started a campaign and they were supposed to do something and they actually stole away a bride instead and he had to completely rewrite the whole campaign. That's my favorite story, and it makes the most sense when you're trying to explain that your players' decisions can absolutely change everything you have planned.
Exactly. Oh yeah. Like it is one of the reasons that I do use, stuff like Legend Keeper and everything else, because when I very first started playing, like everything was in notebooks and I was writing all these stories and I was always trying to come up with a way to, again, I don't want to railroad my players, but I'm like, okay, well, if you don't go in this direction, now I got to write all this stuff to come in another one. And I went, oh my God, So then I just like, okay, well, then now I'm going to world build, and this isn't to say like this is the right way, because, I had Ginny D on here and I love that she's like, yeah, I only world build absolutely what's needed. Just this is what we're going to do. And these are our choices. And if you choose something that I have prepared, well, then we're just going to have to wait till next session. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. It sounds weird, but that's never just dawned on me to be like, oh, okay, well then hold on. I need to go write that.
Yeah, I think one of the problems I have and why, because I have this whole big idea and this homebrew world, like in my head, I'd kind of talked with you about it when I was on stream the other day, where like I have this whole world and like I have this really cool story that I feel like would be super fun to play, but like, oh, Devin, I feel like I have to name every bartender, every bar. I just love the organization and I want to know, even if like 100%, there's going to be things where I have to rewrite it the next week. And there's no right or wrong way, in my opinion, to world build. I mean, I'm never actually DM'd full campaign, so who am I to say? But I want to know. I'm crazy.
Let me tell you, again, and absolutely just keep talking about them because I now love, because one of the reasons I love Legend Keeper as much as I do and talk about them all the time is because originally when I started doing this, like everything's in notebooks and you like rip out a paper and put it in a different spot. Like it doesn't quite work that way. Or like we were working with Google Documents at one point and just like Word, like it was really bad.
I hate using Word. I have a friend on our Wednesday game who does all of her notes in one big document.
Oh God, no.
I know. It makes my skin crawl. Like I can't do it. But I mean, it works for her and she totally understands everything that's going on. And that's really all that matters.
Oh yeah. But, and then at one point I was using OneNote.
Yeah, I think I had a friend who also used that one. I'm using something called Obsidian right now.
Yeah,
but I don't think you can share it the same way with Legend Keeper.
Right.
But and then my friend for our campaigns that we play, she has stuff. I don't even know how she saves stuff because she saves everything Untitled 1, Untitled 2. Like she's crazy.
Oh God.
I know. We always say we're going to fly over to her place and reorganize everything, but she has it somewhere and she copies and pastes it into the Discord as we're playing, which is also just fine, but it would be nice to have the organization.
Yeah, like, I mean, however it works for somebody, I am definitely like all for. I personally just would be screaming. I would be screaming. I would be so like, nope, there's no way. And I love to, I think one of the reasons that my players are the way they are is because I just build a world and they play in it and they do whatever they want. Technically, I make the joke all the time, they don't need me anymore. They do so much role playing by themselves because we do a lot of text-based interactions. One, because we're all over the world at this point and in so many different time zones, but also it's just so much easier for them to like get up these huge monologues or these huge discussions, and they just either go into a voice chat and then they record the good parts that they need for our lore keeper, or they just type everything out and have these big huge conversations that builds great teamwork, and all of these allows their characters to make sense why they're together. So a lot of bonding.
Yeah,
but
in our Friday group, I have like my own Discord, and then I have channels for like, for example, my character Amelie and Asmira, and then the DM also has access to that channel and no one else. And that's how we do our, if there's extra chats that we don't feel like we need to drone on during game.
Now I get to do that in Legend Keeper because it updates in real time, so my players get to watch me type things out.
That's amazing. I'd be so excited the whole time. Just
I was playing a game once, and one of the characters was one of my players was talking to another character and giving them information, and I, for some reason, last minute decided to change the name. I just thought it felt, sounded better. So they're like, yeah, they used to be so-and-so, but now they're called whatever. And I was like, I forgot that you could see my notes while I was typing it.
That's awesome.
She's like, yeah, she's like, I'm watching you type it as I'm trying to talk to them. And I was like, oh shit, I forgot that it does that. Yes, you're right.
One of my favorite things ever is asking the DM the name of everyone we come across. I do that especially in Friday because my character, she is someone who constantly takes notes. I did that on purpose because I wanted to get better at taking notes myself. So I made her like obsessed with her notebook. And so I ask everyone's name, and my DM's already sick of it. He's giving me like, oh, I'm Mr. Fancy Pants, but I'm writing it down. And 6 years from now, if we're still playing and I want to go talk to Mr. Fancy Pants, I'll know.
Right. Oh yeah, no, same, absolute same. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I started world building on the level that I did. Because the great thing is like, I was asked because one of my players, we're a smaller group and then we're part of a much larger group of, I have 8 players at that point, which is a lot. And one of my players of that group, we kind of like broke off into the smaller groups that we are now. And she wanted to GM, and she's like, okay, how did you start this? And I go, it's not a world. It is not a world when you start. Start with just a town. Just tell me the town that you start in. You can create your NPCs. Like I have like this whole list, and I'm like, and then tell your players to do the same thing. What is your hometown? Great. What school? What's the name of the school you went to? What are your parents' names? What are your teachers' names? What are the first person you had a crush on? Who's the first person you kissed? Who did you go on a date on? Why did you leave I make them fill out, I shouldn't say make them because they choose to do it. Fill out all of the information. They get to world build their hometown.
I love that.
Oh yeah. They are amazing. They will give me volumes of information. They will tell me things I would never think to ask about ever, including giving me the names of like people's pets, or one of my players comes from a town where there's a pig farmer and he named all his pigs and they're in alphabetical order. It is hilarious. And so they gave me a list of pig names. I still haven't used it, but I have a list of pig names.
That's important. I'm actually going through that right now with our Friday DM because we're actually a new campaign. Like we're only 15 sessions in, but we're already so deep in the lore because he had his world pretty much built. But it's really cool because I was able to tell him what kind of character I wanted to play. And he's like, oh, I know who your parents are. This is sick. And then he told me all about them and I was like, this is perfect. And we're figuring it out. And now For whatever reason, I'm away from my hometown and I'll be going back probably at some point soon. So he's like, do you want to build, you know, the castle that you lived in? Like, do you want to share all that information with me, or do you want me to do it? And I told him like these things for sure. And then he helped me be sure, you know, her best friend is the daughter of the pastor at a church. So I want to know where that church is and, you know, how extravagant it is, and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's really, really cool. Like the building it together with the DM, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's what I do with my players.
Yeah, it's just the best way. I
take it one step further though.
Oh?
If they visit their hometown, they take over as the GM.
Really?
Yes. So for however many sessions, whether it's one or whatever, while they're there, they get to play as their character. They introduce their adventuring party to the town and meet all the people. They'll have events if there's anything going on, like, and they will lead little mini side quests or, you know, campaigns or not campaigns, events or whatever. Like they'll do things with side businesses. Yeah. They have a lot of fun and they get to like GM a little bit.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
I will admit, I'm very scared for Emily to go back to her home. I don't think I could DM it because she may not be allowed back, but I guess we'll see. We'll see.
It's a great way for, and that's actually how my one player decided, like, I want to GM because this was a lot of fun. It's a great way to kind of like dip your toes in. And it also, you know, talk it over with your GM and be like, hey, can I just do it for like this portion of the time? Like not the entire time because I'm terrified, you know, or as long as I'm not like messing up whatever storyline you already have for me. So
that would definitely be really, really cool. I don't think it would be possible in the campaign on Friday.
Right.
But that's so neat. And I bet that's so exciting for all the players. And like, I don't know, like I love all the little things. Like I had made a character where she didn't get along with the house cook, but she got along well with everybody else. That would have been so fun when we went there to play that interaction. That would have been really fun.
Oh yeah, I make maps with them as well. So like, let's map out your hometown and tell me what's where. And then all of a sudden, like I have an entire list in town if I ever want to, you know, whether it's that campaign or another one, because we keep playing in the same world. Because if you have a planet big enough, the great thing is like they have gone or passed through like some other character's hometown that we've already been in, and now I have all the NPCs and events that go on, and you know, and they're celebrating the hero that, you know, from the previous campaign. There's a statue of them now, and they're like, oh God, you know, and they're all like ecstatic over the fact of, you know,
seeing
their previous characters being, you know, appreciated.
Yes, we on our Monday campaign, we're in the Feywilds right now. We're about to go into the mushroom area. I can't remember the name right now. And we were being told that there are drug lords that live there. And turns out it is the drug lords from our Friday campaign. They ended up together and they started their own little business. And now it looks like they're in the Feywild. So it was really cool to see them and hear about them again and be like, oh, they sound attractive. Like it was really cool to see that sort of convergence.
I am uncomfortable with people watching me work. And part of that is because one, I take a ridiculous amount of breaks in between things because I like to research, Google, or get visual references of stuff. So I feel like I spend more time doing that than I am drawing whenever I'm on stream. But also some of the commentary and everything else. And I'm just like, oh. So how the fuck do you do it?
It's really hard mentally sometimes because I 100% agree with you. There are parts of my artwork that I prefer to do alone. Gathering references, for example, I'll usually do all that beforehand. I actually prep a lot of art before I stream it. Like I wait till I get to a point where I'm comfortable. Although I do worry that that's boring, although my viewers never say it is. But yeah, I prep a lot. I take a lot of breaks and I remind myself that we're human, and talking to a bunch of strangers on the internet for 3 to 6 hours at a time is a lot, especially when, despite your job, you are super introverted. So it's definitely a lot, and it takes a lot of preparing and reminding yourself that it's human to cancel and you're not a criminal for doing so. But it is worth it because my community is so sweet. They're so nice. They're way too nice to me. And I mean, I'm still a small streamer, definitely, but even just, you know, hanging out, they're now, most of them know, like I was telling you earlier, I don't know if I should say this on the podcast, it's really embarrassing for me, but they call me Piss Queen because I go pee a lot. And they take it like a big joke, but they don't get upset that I'm taking all these breaks and I have a be right back screen. So I think it's just reminding yourself of that, and also, most importantly, having mods that you completely trust. Sometimes they're not there, but a lot of the time I'm very blessed. I have some really wonderful friends that are my mods. And if someone pops in being a jerk, they're instantly gone. Like, we don't have any sort of tolerance for even just negativity, let alone things worse than that. So I think the biggest thing is mods and reminding yourself, cancel if you want to. If you just want to go sit in the sun, go cancel. Like, it's not the end of the world.
Right. Do you think that being on Twitch has improved? Like, I don't know what your socials were like before. Do you think that it's made a tremendous difference? Not that much. Is it just more for you? Or like, how do you think that it kind of fits in with everything that you're doing, as far as like, because I mean, obviously everything that we do like that is marketing, not that it's with that intention, but
yeah, I do think it helps. There's been times where I go on large hiatuses for my mental health. I'm a very anxious person, and having the Discord mixed with Twitch really helps because I can still kind of stay in contact with my community. But I will say streaming does help with that community but growth, keeping it together. I get to hang out with everyone. I'd love to hang out with everyone in like a voice chat on the Discord, but I am a very anxious person and I get very overwhelmed by sound. So streaming and being able to just hear what I choose to hear and being able to answer the chat at my leisure is very helpful. But yeah, I do think it's helpful for my career, if that's kind of what you mean, like for growing online. I don't get a lot. I mean, I'm still a smaller streamer, but having that connection with my community, I think, is way more important than the consistent growth as well. Most of my commission work comes from already made people in my community, and it slowly starts to grow. And I think it's really cool. I know I'm really blessed to have such lovely people in the Hey Babies.
Oh, how many followers do you have on Twitch?
I think only 2,000, a couple hundred over 2,000, maybe 2,500. So not too big, and I've been streaming a long time, but I do go on large hiatuses. There are algorithms to it. I stopped using camera almost at all. I have it set up if I want to. But it is nice to just, you know, as a stay-at-home artist, sometimes you don't want to get ready for the day.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, you don't want to put on makeup or whatever you feel is necessary to be on camera for yourself. So I have that little PNG tuber now, which also is interactive with the chat, which is great. And then also having the VODs, I think, is great, like the recordings of it, because I can then put it on YouTube, and there are people that go in and watch those, which, I mean, I would never watch them because I don't record the music when I'm streaming, and I know you can hear myself breathing in those recordings, and I stay far away, but I put them on YouTube for the people that want it. But it is convenient. I do quite like it. It's just important to remember that it's okay to take a step back from it and focus on our work.
Now, out of curiosity, do you do events on Discord as well? So, because technically it's the same, like you don't have to have a bunch of people in voice chat and they just watch you create if you want.
Yeah, I actually don't. I do have a section in my Patreon section of Discord, so it's private, only the patrons can see it, where I can basically do the same thing without all of the fancy stuff, no commands, no things over top. It's literally just my iPad being screen shared with them. And sometimes I'll do that, not very often. I will say if I'm going to stream, I'll usually just stream. we do have like events in the Discord, but not necessarily with me. Like we have like a monthly art challenge. We actually have a new community D&D game getting started by a community DM, and stuff like that. But for myself, it's Twitch, it's social media, and then I need to I'm very, very introverted. So
Right. Do you have more engagement when you do your live streams on Twitch versus like when you're visible and active in your Discord? Or is it vice versa? Like, where do you think that you get your most interactions when you're actually looking to like, hey, this is what I'm doing now?
definitely Twitch. The Discord has kind of just, I shouldn't say it's died down. It's been a bit quieter. I'm not actually that active on the Discord. I try to be, and I try and check out the art channels and try and respond in the general section when I can. We also have a weekly like newsletter that comes out with a question of the week and stuff like that. But definitely Twitch is where the most interactions I think with my community happen. While Discord is great and I love it, and it's great seeing everyone interact with each other and get to know them and stuff like that, Twitch is great for me as an introvert. It's the one place where I'm totally good. I'm watching the chat. I'm ready to go. I'm here for them. And I always tell them that because I do have people saying, "Oh, sorry, I'm talking a lot," or "I'm sorry, I'm asking questions." That's what I'm streaming for. There are certain things that I won't do on stream. Like I can't do full tutorials, but if you're like, "Hey, how did you do that thing you just did there?" I will talk about it. I'm not gonna, be like, "Oh, check out my Patreon," which I think is great. And I do also tell them like I have tutorials there and stuff. But I like Twitch because it does feel like that sense of community and getting to talk to people in a more casual way, I think. Yeah.
Do you so how long have you been on Twitch? Let me ask that.
Oh gosh, I think 2017. Very on and off, though, I should say. Yeah.
How do you think that it has improved, or not improved for that matter, over the years as far as like tools? Essentially, if somebody like me, who's not crazy about Twitch or anything because of trolls and assholes, how many tools do you think that you have? Do you think that it's easier, better, harder, not at all?
Easier. Okay. Definitely easier. I will say, like a lot of like the alerts and stuff, you used to have to use outside programs. I used to have multiple different things open at a time. Now I still do have multiple things open, but not as much, which is great. And Twitch has also integrated their own alert system, which is the biggest part for me. I do have more things going right now than I actually need to. I had to download one thing to get access to a particular command that can change my PNG tuber for the chat with channel points, but I didn't feel like moving all my commands over. So I do have two extra programs or one extra program that I need to open at the same time, but it's definitely easier for sure. As all things do, Twitch definitely has its downsides, but I think overall it is very user-friendly once you get used to it. It's not all coding and stuff. I'm very lucky. My wonderful friend and mod helped me set up my stream however many years ago in 2017, and to this day he's still the main mod on Discord, and he tries his best to come to Twitch streams. He's in Australia, so I'm very lucky to have him as a friend. But yeah, it's definitely better.
What programs do you have open?
Oh gosh.
And what do you use them for?
So I use Streamlabs OBS. I am aware, I believe that they took coding from OBS, so they're not the greatest program, but I had everything set up, so I still use it. It's user-friendly for me, so I have Streamlabs OBS. I also use a program called VideoTube. That's for my PNG tuber. I have Streamlabs Chatbot. That's where all of my commands are. I have Mix It Up, which is my new one that I could move over all of my commands, but I don't feel like it, so I haven't. And then I also have Reflector 4, which mirrors my iPad screen onto my second monitor, and then that's what's recorded for the stream. So those are what I all have open at the same time.
Okay, so you're specifically using your iPad and streaming with it. That's interesting.
Yeah. That's all I use. I think way back when I used to use Paint Tool Sai and an Intuos, like Wacom Intuos tablet. But other than that, it's always been my iPad and I believe Reflector 3 before Reflector 4.
Right. What does OBS do?
OBS is the streaming system. There's OBS and Streamlabs OBS. I believe they both work pretty similarly. But that is the whole, it's connected to my Twitch. When I press go live, it's on Streamlabs OBS. I can set up browser sources. So I have an application or a browser source that shows the current song I have playing, which is great. I have, oh gosh, my alerts go through a browser source on Streamlabs. So that's basically where you set up your stream, make it look nice, all fancy like. That's where you set up your mic and all of that.
Gotcha. Is it necessary?
To stream? Yes, I believe so. Streamlabs OBS or OBS, a streaming software you have to stream. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me. That's absolutely okay. But
they will, let me tell you.
Yeah, that's the one
but
thing.
But always in the politest way.
Oh, great. I mean, I'm not this. Like I said, my friend helped me set up my stream a long time ago, and I go with what I already know now. So if it's something else, that's great. I'm sure I could have less programs open than I do. Right. That my computer would be very happy. But
no, we're just. Yeah, no, I mean, like what you said before, as artists, we have so many jobs, and it comes to like all of the social medias. Where do you post? What do you post? How much do you interact? Do you have a Discord? Do you just leave everything on Patreon? Do you stream? If you stream, do you need all this stuff? Now I gotta learn new software. Like, there's so many things, and it becomes so overwhelming.
Yep. Photography, marketing, all of that kind of stuff as well. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah. Communications, customer service.
Exactly. That's so one of the reasons why I want to break this down for everybody. Even the people that are very well established. Like a perfect example is I'm well established in this community, and yet I don't fucking stream. And one of the reasons is it's too much. I tried in the past. There's just too much going on. I don't like dealing with the software. I hate dealing with updates. I just want to fucking stream. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I just want to fucking draw, 100%. I don't want all the other stuff with it. So I'm like, oh, fuck it. I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah. I saw someone talking about how, like, someone said, oh, hey, I want to be an artist full time. And it's like, okay, great. Are you good at marketing? Like, right. Be aware. It's a lot more. It's exhausting, but I do think that it's important to remember that everyone's trying to do that all at the same time, and you're not a criminal if you mess it up.
And that's why I love when I can bring somebody on here and I'll be like, okay, so you do this, great. Can I break this down with you? Because I think that the majority of us, like the whole thing that was going on with Twitter, and it's like, oh God, now I got to build up another following and I got to do all this other stuff. I think that everything it isn't that it's like, oh God, it's new and I got to change something. It's like, it's just something else to learn. And yes. I think it's really nice when you can sit down and like hear somebody else is like, yeah, no, I don't got a huge following, but this is what I do. And this works. And this is why, because like I said, I don't stream. So you can't ask me how to go about that. I can't answer you. I didn't notice any difference in follower count or interactions or paid work or anything else when I streamed. It was just like, for a lot of people, it just felt like something new and novice for them to watch and annoy the shit out of me.
That's so I was like, incredibly fair.
Right. So I'm like, for me, did not work so much. Everyone wants a cartography lesson while I'm streaming. And I'm like, I kind of can't. I'm already working on something. Yeah. And I made a whole fucking cartography course on Patreon. Go on there.
We have like commands and stuff for that too, which is really convenient. So if I'm like, oh, hey, I have tutorials on my Patreon, I can type in !Patreon and leave it at that, which is great. Like I was saying before, my community is really great. So sometimes they'll do it for me, which is, oh my God, I'm just in love with them at that moment. Like that's... Thank you so much. Like truly, I've done streams where I'm not drawing. I'm doing something else. I've done a birthday stream where we've played games together and that kind of stuff. But it's nerve-wracking. Streaming is live. I've accidentally shown things on stream that I shouldn't be showing because it accidentally popped up on the camera at that time, and those things are going to happen. And it's really scary. You also have to deal with assholes. Assholes exist in this world, and they're everywhere.
I think that the key thing is that, again, what works for one person may not work for you, and that it is okay if you don't want to stream, or if it's too stressful, or if it's too much. It doesn't, like, I get a lot where, you know, someone will be like, well, everyone's drawing whatever, so clearly that's what I should be drawing because that's what's popular, and there's no way I'm going to be able to sell anything unless I'm drawing what's popular. That isn't true.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lid for every pot, as the saying goes. There's a lot of people, like, let me tell you, fantasy cartography is just not this huge, overwhelmingly abundant industry at all. Like, there's a tiny handful of us, and it's almost, you know, there's a lot of other projects or whatever that have maps, and they literally just ask an artist. They don't necessarily, like, even art directors don't realize that there's actual professional fantasy cartographers.
Yeah, I think I've been asked for a map at least once, and I'm like, I have map brushes. I've never used them.
You know, so I think it's important that, like, hey, if you try streaming and it doesn't work for you, that's okay.
Not even like, yes, if it doesn't work for you, absolutely, it's okay. But if you're doing like fine and you are able to grow in your own way, there's no reason you have to tack on something else,
right?
Unless you feel like it's not working out, whatever it might be. I guess that's just part of the business. But yeah, you don't have to stream to be an artist at all. I don't think most artists, at least the ones that I talk to, stream.
Right.
So yeah, it's a lot.
But you also use TikTok, do you not?
I do, kind of. Yeah, I'm trying.
See, and this is a perfect example of what I mean. Like, man, so was it last year before, whatever, I got on, I did a bunch of little cartography related TikToks. They were great. And then I realized, one, I am forcing myself to be on camera, which I hate. And I realized, like, that's stupid of me. I shouldn't. You know, like, if I am uncomfortable on camera, then I shouldn't force myself to be on it, because it's going to come across that I'm uncomfortable.
When I first started using TikTok, I recorded bits and pieces of the process, but I didn't actually. I recorded it after it was already finished, and I just went back to different parts and did a little tidbit, and those videos did really well. I even had one, I think, with like over 1 million views, and I am up to, I think it's 130,000 followers on TikTok, but now my views are like 300 to 1,000 views. It's now value over quantity, I guess is the best way to put it, which is great. I mean, 100%. But at the same time, TikTok is like, oh, these longer videos are going to do a lot better. That's what we've come to notice, and that's how we're building our platform. But I skipped long videos, and I don't know anyone that enjoys them. I posted a long video like they told me to, and like nobody watched it, and that's fine. But I don't know what's up with social media. I think I don't know. I don't even know.
From a business standpoint, TikTok will absolutely try to convince everyone to create longer videos, because if you do, that means that people are staying on the app longer. For their numbers, that looks great. And that is a big reason why they push it. I absolutely believe that all social media companies lie to us about their numbers.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. There's a whole psychology behind marketing, but there's also a psychology behind marketing for platforms. They will absolutely make you feel that without you being on TikTok, you're not going to make any sales. You're not going to get anyone to notice your stuff. You know, you have to make videos. You have to make reels on Instagram, blah, blah, blah. Like, that sounds great, but that's not true. You do have to advertise, or else nobody's going to know any of your stuff exists. But you also have to do it in a way that feels more natural for other people to consume.
I do find it very interesting. I know that there were other platforms before this, but I do think that TikTok is what started a lot of us having that attention span issue when it comes to browsing on the internet. So I find it very interesting that after all of these, quick snippets videos, I remember they at one point went to a minute, and now you can do 10, and now you can do even more, and it's crazy. Now they're like, you have to do longer videos, and it's like, you've trained us to want to stare at this video for 8 seconds. I don't know what you're expecting of me.
See, I think what happened is TikTok catered to our quick attention spans.
Mm-hmm.
I think all other platforms, anything that you have to read, anything that with the longer videos, everything else, I think that TikTok realized that we go on YouTube, we watch like 2 or 3 minutes of a video, decide if we're going to watch it the rest or not. Like at best, if we get that far. Like a perfect example is with marketing, they tell you that you have 30 seconds, technically less than, but you on your website, you have 30 seconds or less to get somebody's attention. So the moment that somebody lands on your website, whatever page, your homepage, you have to have something immediately on there that makes them want to continue being on your website and scrolling.
Mm-hmm.
So this is true technically with all other forms of marketing or media or socials, is whatever platform you're on, the reason that we have algorithms and everything else is because it is catered to that type of consumption. And I think that TikTok was like, hey, we all have really short attention spans because everything is now instantaneous on the internet. Here, give me 30 seconds to see whether or not I continue watching this 3-minute video. Or like 3 minutes is like the max that I pay attention to anything and then I scroll, So
Mm-hmm.
I think that they made TikTok that way and then realized like, wow, we could get more advertisers if we could keep people on the platform longer.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're like,
a single person want to watch a TikTok video longer.
There's some that are interesting where it's like, okay, but even the ones that, and again, I'm a huge like earth science fan, give me nerdiness and I'm just absolutely eating it up. But I still am only like, okay, you've given me 3 minutes on like all of the over 100 moons that Saturn has. That's great. Next.
100 moons.
Oh yeah. Saturn has over 100 moons.
I'm not trying to be self-deprecating here. I genuinely don't know a lot. Like, I am always so shocked by things, which it's a great way to live. It's kind of fun. You learn a lot randomly, but yeah, that's crazy. 100 moons.
Yeah. I know a lot of things that are absolutely useless in everyday life, but work really well for world building.
And yes, world building, absolutely. Oh, that's awesome. How many moons does your world have?
It depends on the world. Right now, currently, I have 2 known moons.
Known moons, interesting.
Yes. We have one. So I love a lot. So one, there's more than moons that satellite the planet that my players currently exist on. But there are other things that go through our night sky that they've been witness to, including meteor showers, comets, everything else. They actually have timed celestial events because
cool.
I am absolutely fascinated with space. I get to add all my nerdiness into this.
That's perfect. I love that you found your calling. I think that's so awesome. Like we were talking about earlier where you used to do maps and had never thought about it being something more than a hobby or
it was for my own tabletop games. Like it didn't even dawn on me. Like, and I've made them for other people or as gifts because I'm a huge Tolkien fan. I've made my Middle Earth maps for people as gifts. Never dawned on me like I could make fantasy maps for people and get paid for it. Impossible.
So cool. I mean, don't get me wrong, the internet can be absolute crap sometimes, but also It's so cool. It's so cool how much it can change like your whole life in a day sometimes even.
Oh, absolutely. I had just been in a previous interview and we were talking about like when I first started doing, because I'm old, when I first started doing art for a living or trying to, there was a lot of walking around with this huge portfolio bag and it would have like blown up pictures because you can't have small little pictures or whatever of your artwork at the time. You had like a full on huge portfolio bag that I would schlep around all over the place to get, originally to one, even try and get an agent, and two, to get my stuff in galleries, but also like just to have them sold at local businesses, to have them hung up or something so I could have my stuff out there. And the internet didn't exist as it does now at all. So like there was so much FaceTime and interacting with people, and like as somebody who really doesn't like to people, it was horrible.
Amen.
I keep making the joke that I'm like, you know what? The internet made this so much easier for me to like, hey, I'm okay. I'm ready to people. Let's people. Okay, I'm done peopling. Gotta go now. And I can just turn it off.
I'm definitely not, I wouldn't even say established. I've got my community, but I've never had a job with a company. I've never went door to door. I've never been in an art gallery. I think that that's so incredible. But if I had to walk or drive somewhere to actually get that to happen, I mean, I don't know. I mean, knock on wood, I hope one day something really cool happens and I get to work with some extra neat people. But if I had to go there just to show off my work, well, I'm a hermit now. I think I would not do well at all. So I do think that's really cool.
One of the reasons I invited you on here was because you are a full-time artist and you haven't worked with any of the major companies or names. And that's really kind of an accomplishment in itself.
All of my work comes from people with their silly little D&D characters that I love so much, and I get to bring them to life, and that's it. I've never been hired for a company. I've had rights fees purchased, but that was because maybe they wanted to stream it on a monetized stream, or I have done, I think, one book cover for just someone who makes stories on and they share on Amazon. But I've never worked with a company. I have to admit, like, it feels like a negative when I say that, but you saying that actually kind of makes me feel a bit better. You're right. I'm existing, and that's good.
Right. I mean, that's important. I mean, especially considering as artists, the hardest thing in the world is, like, when I very first started, everyone's like, oh my God, Wizards of the Coast, hire her. Please don't. I don't want to work for a company. You don't understand. I love being a freelancer. I genuinely do. I don't want the deadlines. I don't want the stress. I did a book with the Wizards of the Coast and Critical Role. I did 2 of them. The first one was an absolute fucking emotional nightmare for me. They wanted so much work in so little amount of time. I was so stressed out. I couldn't imagine doing this on a regular basis. Pass.
Yeah. While I think if a bigger company reached out, I mean, don't get me wrong, if Critical Role reached out, I would cry and then say yes. But
well, that's Critical Role, though.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm in love with them. But if any other company reached out to work with me, I would probably still say yes because I want to have it under my belt. Right. But I do have a lot of anxiety issues, which I've talked a bit about with you, and I have come to realize that there is a possibility that it is due to autism, which my doctor has recently brought up. So it does make me very nervous. I do have a lot of trauma working in the office space. I was bullied very badly and had a lot of issues, and which was one of the reasons that I had quit and moved to full-time artwork. But like, even the idea of setting up a meeting with someone, as you know, I messaged you before we even, chatted today, I get very, very anxious, and it sucks. Right. And my brain tells me positive things. So I know that I have the means to do it. I just have to get through it first.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, we also have we as an artist have we don't know what to expect, especially as a freelancer, and then being contacted like companies like Critical Role or Wizards of the Coast. And I think that we're just like, somebody's going to message us, tell us what they want. We're going to create it. It's going to be amazing. And then I'm going to get paid, right? That's how that works. No, not even close. No,
I've even had just regular freelance work with regular people where you hope that's how it goes. But
right.
I've had situations. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm very lucky.
Hmm.
Don't want to jinx it. I have not had a nightmare client yet.
I
Um,
have.
I'm lucky. I have had a nightmare client when it came to an art trade, which is why I no longer really do them.
Yep,
But
same.
luckily for my paid commission work, which I honestly believe it is because I don't have. This is one of the reasons I fully believe artists should be charging for what they are worth, because part of it is customer service. And I do
Yes.
feel that because my prices are more in line with, I don't know how to word it. Like they're higher in price.
Hmm.
I'm getting customers that want to work with me, and they are not just hiring me because they can afford it. They're hiring me because they want to work with me and they already
Right.
enjoy the work I put out.
Yes, that's a big thing that I state a lot. Like, you already got the job. If
Mhm.
somebody's coming to you specifically to hire you to create something, you've already got the job. You don't got to convince them. So it's okay to like name your price.
Mhm.
And if they can afford it, great. If not, say, hey, let me know what your budget is and I'll see if I can work with it. Or we'll change part of it. Or like we'll do something close or similar, whatever. Especially if it's a company that you really, really want to work with.
Mhm.
You know,
Yes. I this is why I get so I don't know what the right word is here. I like when someone charges $5 for like a fully, done piece. Someone may hire you, a lot of people may hire you because they got $5 in their pocket, not because they give a flying shit about your work, which means they
right.
might be an absolute nightmare client, which is not what you want. Then you'll get into an art block, then you'll stop drawing, then you'll lose momentum. It's just, I do think that pricing your commissions is important, and it's important to consider everything other than just what you feel your skill is. It's also important to charge for your time. It's also important to charge for your time in the sense of if you work quick at a high quality, that should cost more, not less.
Right.
And if you are highly communicative with your clients, that's another important thing to consider when you're charging your tools. And I do understand. Obviously, I was at a place too where I had really low prices and like you're not getting work, and it's just keep putting stuff out there. Just keep drawing and doing the stuff that you love, because then eventually you'll hopefully get people commissioning you for the things you actually like.
Right. And it's not just because you're not getting work or eyes on your stuff doesn't mean that it has anything to do with your prices. Sometimes it can just be, our industry, especially in tabletop, again, because I've been playing for over 30 years, I've watched this industry, flux a lot. There's times where everything is about, digital characters and digital play. And then there's times where it's just about like in person. There's times it's just about the fandoms. It's like it flexes like every other fandom out there. So it may not necessarily be because, oh my God, you're charging too much. I mean, you're always going to hear that, by the way.
Yeah.
Even if you are charging $5, somebody out there will, for some reason, like, oh, that's too much.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah. I feel like if you decide to do this kind of work and you're the one making decisions, you're going to hear, what did I say earlier? Assholes. Like, they just exist. Yes. You're going to hear it. It's the same thing that I say. Like, I always advocate, whatever. I always say, post your stuff online, even if you hate it, because 3 years from now, you're going to look at it and be like, holy crap, look at my growth. That's amazing. Right. And, you're going to get people saying that your art sucks. You're going to get trolls that say let's say you did a redraw of something. You're going to get people saying, oh, I like the old one better. Shut up. I don't care if you like the old one better. I've seen my growth and this makes me happy. And I always, whenever I get asked, like, how did I start getting into art and how did I stay motivated, I would creep. I would creep other artists that I loved. I would go to the bottom of their Instagram page and I would see their first posts and I'd scroll up and watch their growth. And it was the most magical thing for me when I first started learning. Biggest recommendation, post your art online. You'll get people to maybe notice you, but you'll also notice you. And that's important.
And the other thing is, like, if you do put your stuff online, so a great example is I will have somebody who follows me and they're like, yeah, fantasy cartographer or, wants to be one or whatever, I'll look at your post if I, come across it. I'll look at your feed. And if I don't see any of your art on there within like a little bit, I'm like, okay, you don't post any of your stuff on there. I don't really have a reason to follow you then.
Yeah, I'm very big on following accounts that are strictly dedicated to art on my art accounts.
Yes.
Because I'm trying to ingest other art because that inspires me to keep drawing.
Absolutely.
I don't want to see your face, even if it's pretty. You can put it on your story,
Right. Like I don't mind like little bits and pieces. Like I I personally post cat videos or pictures, I should say. But my accounts I think are different than what I would advise other people to do marketing wise.
Mm-hmm.
Only because I'm already established and my accounts weren't meant to be for business. I had originally started, when I very first started doing this, these were all my personal accounts because they're all underneath my name. And I had made business accounts and nobody ever followed them. Part of that is because I did not know what the fuck to post on them. And the other thing is that because I love to tell stories and everything else, people started following my personal accounts. And I was like, all right, apparently this isn't how, because by the way, this isn't how marketing normally works.
But maybe at the same time, it is. Maybe your stories, I mean, clearly they're incredibly interesting, even without also your artwork. You're doing great. Like you're wonderful.
Well, I think for the tabletop industry, absolutely, because these are all very emotional stories that we're all involved in. This is a very personal hobby. So I think that marketing how you do normally doesn't work here. So I think how, just being very personable, just being very real and putting your stuff out there and putting your silly games and the moments that you have with your characters and your cats and, just weird things like that, because we're all kind of weird. I think it fits.
I do also like seeing, like, I don't want to say I don't like seeing not established artists, like their personal side of things. I don't actively go looking for it, but established artists, I love seeing what their life is like, maybe even outside of their artwork. And I want to see what they've done for themselves with this job. And I think that's incredibly inspiring too. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. It's one of the reasons that I love following some of the people that I do. And also one of the reasons why I learned to be okay with putting my own personal stuff online, just not my face, which I've recently okay, no, I'm actually genuinely uncomfortable with it. So I'm just not going to do it. And that's okay.
Yeah, that is okay. I've actually had a bunch of stuff show up on my Explore page about faceless accounts. So it sounds to me like that's absolutely okay. I've actually never seen your face before, and I don't think it is necessary for your marketing. I mean, your voice is eloquent.
Thank you.
Oh my God, every
you
time.
You said it right.
Oh my gosh, I question myself. Your voice is eloquent. Your map making is beautiful. The stuff that you talk about, you're doing your tarot card deck, which I'm really excited to hear more about. I don't think your face is necessary for that.
No, it really isn't. And the other thing is I'm really, really big. If you ever go on my Discord, at the very top of it, there's a rules channel, and it tells you how to interact with me even.
I've read it.
I am very big on, I'm very big on therapy. If you have an opportunity to go, even if you don't feel that you have anything seriously going on, there is absolutely nothing the matter with sitting down and just talking to somebody. You will find that you will discuss things that you didn't even know were a problem. But because of therapy, I was told that it's okay that I have boundaries, because my entire life as a very outspoken, free-minded, adventurous female, society doesn't like that, or didn't. And I was constantly told about how I'm loud, obnoxious, and basically made to feel like somehow I'm more manly because I am outspoken or confident, for that matter, or I'm conceited because I'm confident. But yet confidence is attractive. What the fuck, people?
That's so true. Oh,
Right.
yeah.
So it's so all over the place. And I had a fantastic therapist. I was like, you know what? Ignore all of that. You're great at setting your own personal boundaries. That's the problem. And people don't want that. Nobody wants to feel like they're being, stopped from doing something or interacting with somebody a certain way or being told how to interact. But one of the best things that we can possibly do for our mental health is to set boundaries and make sure people abide by them. And if somebody doesn't, they don't need to be in your life.
I'm an anxious person. This is probably the 700th time I've said this today, but I surprisingly am very good at setting up those boundaries and cutting people out when they've crossed them too many times. I have family members I no longer talk to, nor do I care to hear about. I do not think blood is thicker than water.
Nope.
That's not even the original saying. Wild how the world just changes that. The original saying is the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. So it actually means the opposite, the original saying.
Right.
So I think that's so interesting. But it is really helpful. I still question everything. I'm still a people pleaser. I constantly worry people are mad at me. I'm absolutely that person. But I also know it is not my friend's job to change the way they're talking just to appease my anxiety. I'm very blessed that sometimes they do, but it is not their job to, and I should never be mad at them for not adjusting all the time at every second of the day. But yeah, boundaries are good. Cutting out people can be very, what's the word? Refreshing?
Therapeutic.
Therapeutic, yes.
Yes. I am also a no contact, including with a parent. And if the person that you're related to is not somebody that you would want to be friends with, there's no reason to force yourself to try and be friends with them by pure happenstance that they're related to you.
Yes. 100%.
Right. My found family means far more to me than my biological family. I have been absolutely blessed with some of the most amazing people in my life that were never blood related to me. And when I decided to go no contact with my parent, I had so much support and so much love, even though they all knew that it meant that I was moving across the country, technically.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, I met my wife and everything just lined up perfectly. And I lived in New York and she lived in Arizona at the time. And I was leaving New York and she's like, I have a room and everything else. I have a larger house and you could rent it until you find an apartment. So yeah, I incidentally did the most lesbian thing on the planet, which is U-hauled on the first date, but that wasn't the intention. It just happened.
That's so cute, though. I love stories of people coming together. I love relationship beginning stories. How long have you guys been together?
15 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, since
That's
2009.
Incredible. Been 13 years with my partner, but we were neighbors when we first met. We were kids. We went to the same elementary school and high school, and we started dating when I was 14, because I'm 28 now. 28 in June. So I love a good relationship.
Yeah, I met my wife on an LGBT forum. We're on a website together. And I was just talking about life as one does and being queer. And I posted that I was going to go, I was having a night in Manhattan, that if anyone wanted to join, this is where we were going and we're meeting up. Because it was a private one. I'm not blasting this across the internet before anyone yells at me. Plus, it's a public place, and it's a place that I used to actually. I'm a former drag queen.
Oh,
yeah, and it's a place I used to work, so I knew everyone there, so I was safe.
That's awesome.
Yeah, And yes, women can be drag queens before anyone says anything to me.
Absolutely. It's an art form.
Exactly. And I loved it. And so I was like, yeah, I was like, we're having, the weekend in Manhattan. If anyone wants to come and join, this is where we're going to be on these dates. And she was like, oh, I'd love to come. And I was like, you're in Arizona. She's like, that's what planes are for. And I was like, okay, I need to know more about you, because my friends, everybody answers the phone when I call them is to, where are you now?
Oh, right. Because you had the
RV.
I get the word. Thank you.
Yep.
Words are hard.
No, that's okay. I used to travel a lot even before we got the RV. And then for 10 years with my wife, I convinced her to be a nomad with me, and she loved it. And then she convinced me to settle down as much as I'm going to, and I hated it. I like having the space, so I can't really complain, but I'm just like, oh, man, I feel like I'm stuck in one spot. And then we moved anyhow. So she came out to Manhattan and hung out with me and several of my friends for a weekend. We had a blast, and I just started talking to her after that. And then, I don't know, I was like, I'm getting tired of New York. It's always cold. It's always snowy. And I was actually, I didn't broadcast that I was going no contact with my family and was planning on moving. That's when she was like, hey, I have a place.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, and I loved it. And I will absolutely always encourage people to, if you've exhausted all that you can do and you're done, you can be. It's okay.
Mm-hmm. What is it? No is a full sentence.
Yes. Mm-hmm. In and of itself. Yeah, and that goes true with like everything. Also, in our other areas of our lives, including art. Like, it is okay to tell people like, no, I can't do your work. I can't take this commission. I can't, as hard as that is, because we all want to say yes. Because
I've said no a lot. It can be, technically it's like a blessing to like be able to say no, because I've been in a place where like you don't want to say no to anything that you can get. Right. But it is important to do so, because like I was saying earlier, if you put yourself in an art block because you're drawing something you don't know how or you absolutely hate, and then you are no longer drawing and you're on hiatus, and then like it can spiral so badly, especially people like me who have mental health problems, and it just like it can break a person if you're trying to do the thing you love on something you hate.
Exactly. And I understand, like, everyone's like, a lot of people are like, oh, but I want the challenge. Okay, that's great. Then you do that for yourself when you have the time. Don't do it as a commission, because it's the deadlines. It's wanting to make sure that you live up to the person's expectations. And while you're doing work for, like, going back to the whole working for other companies and stuff, while I'm making any of the work that I do for Wizards of the Coast, Magic the Gathering, Critical Role, whoever, I can't share any of that while I'm making it. So I end up going radio silent for 2 or 3 weeks while I'm doing art for other people. I have nothing to show. Then I have nothing to show after that, because the product's not released for like a year. Then I have to scramble to make up for the time that I've lost to make sure that I meet my Patreon. Well, actually, this is a self-imposed deadline now, but because my patrons my Patreon is set up that you are getting access to my archives, not because I'm making something every month. How do you, what are your flat fees? How do you come to it? Why have they changed?
I don't remember what they were before my initial one, so I'll start with my main one. So this year I've changed prices, but last year my icons were $250, and they're fully detailed. They're fully detailed pieces that I charge. I don't even know by heart the charges for other things, because I mostly do fully detailed. So it was $250 for an icon, so that's collar up. It was $350 for a portrait. However, that could be waist up to, like belly button up, sometimes even thigh, depending, because I will add to the piece if I think it'll look better that way. And I won't charge them more. This is in US dollars.
Okay.
And then for half body, it was $550. And this year it is, I think it's $150 for an icon, $250 for a portrait, and $450 for a half body. So I went, I think, just about $100 on each one less.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never had an issue. I've never had someone say I was too highly priced. I'm very lucky to have not had, monster clients, because again, people are coming to me because they want my work and they already like the style that I do. They're not just paying for it because they can. Don't get me wrong. I would love to collect 1 million commissions of my characters. But I go looking for the artist, not just the art, if that makes sense.
Right.
And yeah, so I've just had to lower my prices, and I do think flat rates are very helpful. I used to also charge on top of things. So if I had, very detailed armor, I might add an extra charge. If you want to add your pet or familiar, that would be an extra charge. If it's a really detailed weapon, or sometimes if it was even like super detailed hair, like long hair, that kind of thing, I would charge more, and I would kind of add on top of it. But now, because I'm getting such less work, my deals usually are I don't charge any extras unless I really need to. So like for like really detailed wings or something, I'll charge extra for, and obviously for pets. If there's another soul in your piece, then that, but usually I don't anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then the cost is also less. And I also have a very large deal going on, which is kind of difficult, but I've had to do a lot of emergency commission type stuff. So I have 10% off for non-Patreon members and 30% off for Patreon members, because they already have 20% off automatically.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So how did you come to your prices to begin with? Do you charge by the hour? What do you include in those hours? Like, did you just go by general standard?
I remember reading somewhere that artists should be charged minimum $25 an hour to $45 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of estimated how long a piece would take me, and I went from there. And I also included the fact that I have been told numerous times that I communicate way more than a normal person when dealing with it. Because again, I think commission work is teamwork. I do not know your character. Your character is your best friend. They're a stranger to me. So I do require a lot from you. I'm constantly sending references. So I've been told to charge more for that customer service, because it is a lot and it's really important to me. I've received a commission before where I had no contact with the artist, and they sent it to me finished, and they didn't include one of her key features, which was freckles. And I asked them to add it, and they did. But then when they shared it, they didn't share the finished piece. They didn't share the one with the freckles. And to me, like 100%, I think an artist should share their work if they want to. That's totally fine. That's not why I'm commissioning them. But it did bother me in the sense of that was my character. That's my character that you drew, even though I'm going to admit she was really basic. But it's just the sense of like, that's not your character. So it's also important to me, for example, when I post my commissions, I try and tag, if not say. Sometimes I don't. Like on TikTok, you can't say as much sometimes. The person who owns the commission, which sucks because a lot of algorithms sometimes don't like it when you tag people. Like sometimes it's like a negative. But I do think it's important to tag them because, again, they're not my character. I didn't make them up. This genius right here at so-and-so made up this character and their entire story and their classes. And I think that's really neat.
Giving your patrons a discount, is there a reason why you're giving them an even steeper discount despite the fact that they already have it? Is it just because they're patrons? Is it because you feel guilty offering 10% to other people and then not them, even though they already got 20%?
So it's actually because emergency commissions. So how I do commissions, as someone who currently is living month to month, this is especially important to me. It has always had, I grew up not, we got church baskets at Christmas.
Yep,
and
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, and so it's important to me that if someone comes to me and they're like, I really want you to draw my character, but I can't afford it right now. I'm like, great. If you agree and I can send you an invoice, I will add you to my queue, and 6 months from now, you have time to save up. You can pay me then. As long as it's before we start, I'm cool with that. If you can't pay me when I get to your name on the queue, I will move you down. If it happens too much and you're just like, oh, I can't do it, I'll just move you off the queue. It's not a big deal. For emergency commissions, they're emergent because I have to pay bills. So how it works is you get a sick discount, but you have to pay up front. That is the difference.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, that now makes more sense.
Yeah.
Well, because, like I wasn't sure if emergency meant you or them or.
Oh, that's fair. Yes. So emergency commission for me, I don't know about other people, is hey, rent's due and it's been a tough month and I'll give you a discount. And that's basically it.
Gotcha. So do you do anything for passive income? So passive income means that it's something that you create once, maybe make a listing for on your website, and then that's it. And it generates money just by existing.
So that's actually one of my goals of 2024. So I currently have my sketch brush and line art brush and details brush. It's all the same brush available on my Etsy, but that's it. And I also have old tutorials for my Patreon, which you can also still access through Patreon. I've moved some of them over to Etsy. So those are what I have right now. I do also have a print on demand service, but I don't ever sell merch. So I do have like some sweaters and stuff like that. But this year, one of my goals actually, I don't know if you've seen, but I've been having some fun drawing some chibi art. A lot more simple, and my little PNG tuber, which has honestly been really fun. And don't get me wrong, I love drawing my detailed portraits, but those little chibis have kind of brought my little heart back, a little happy heart, if you will.
Nice.
Just something cute. So I would like to be able to offer digital downloads of PNG tubers. I'd love to try to get into emotes because I'm having a lot of fun with that more simplified style, and then open up a separate shop for more cute stuff like that.
Do you feel that people respond better to cutesy, or are you just like, this is what I'm doing because I'm loving it?
I don't know if I can say people respond better. I don't post a lot of the chibi artwork. I do know people like my PNG tuber, but like I said, I'm not like a crazy popular streamer, so it's not like I hear that from a lot of people.
Right.
I do enjoy it, and I do know that it's a passive income and it could be fun to do, and it honestly won't take me that long. Thus, I want to put it on the shop. Most people, for me, most of my growth comes from fan art. My only growth that comes from not fan art is my own OC artwork, original character artwork. So I would say no, but I just really like it. I think they're really cute, and they don't take me very long. I'm very quick, and I don't know. It's just one of those little things that, as an artist, like you were saying, you kind of draw something different. This, of course, I'm not kind of just keeping for myself, but it just pleases my art heart.
What can people get through your Patreon?
So I have a good handful of tiers. They're all based off of geese because it's a long story of something that happened on Twitch. And so I have the first tier, which is essentially a tip tier. It's only $3. I always say to people, it's less than a fancy coffee these days for a whole month. And that one is just wallpapers and occasionally polls. And other than that, it's nothing. It's just $3. And then $5, it's everything digital. So archives to my tutorials, new tutorials if I post them, step-by-step, high-quality pictures. I haven't offered like PSD files. I see a lot of people do that. But I haven't had people ask for it. I personally, I would never care to see someone's PSD file, but I guess maybe someday I can start doing that. But so yeah, digital is all that one. And then it goes up to a sticker tier where it's a monthly sticker. And then the next one is a mail club. So it's a print and sticker. And then the next one, lovingly called Honkers, is a mail club, but also access to NSFW artwork, which I don't do a lot. I try to do one piece a month. And then the one above that is where you can get icon commissions, and you also get the mail club.
Can I ask how many patrons you have?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I'm still a budding artist in my brain.
No, that's fine.
But I have 77 loving patrons, I think, at the moment.
Nice.
Yeah, so I think I've reached the 100 mark once, but honestly, Patreon is the most important place, I think, for my career next to commissions, or not my career, but my bills, I should say.
Right.
And it's usually people who genuinely want to support your work, which I really, really love. And I do also try and post. I've been trying to post there more, almost like social media. So once a post goes public on Instagram, I've been failing. I will also try to post it on Patreon, because there are also followers on there like that don't pay, which is kind of new, the way that they organize that. But yeah.
And that's fine. By the way, again, every conversation that I have on here, someone will connect with, and someone else will feel the same way or learn something new. So it doesn't matter if you're a fledgling artist or just starting out, or if you had 5 patrons and make $3 a month. Like, all that matters is that we are having a very realistic conversation to help anyone else who wants to do it, or maybe even you for that matter. Don't want to assume anything. You are free, of course, to ask me any questions you want. Don't want to assume like it's all about, me prying into your your art life.
Imposter syndrome
Okay.
is so real for me. Where, like I said, my friend got mad at me just a year maybe ago because I used to refuse to call myself a professional. Even in tutorials you can find on Patreon now, it'll say I'm not a professional, but which, I mean, I'm selling tutorials on Patreon, so I mean, who am I to say I'm not a professional, which is what my friend would say. Even today, talking about getting to chat with you and having that sort of opportunity, that's wild to me. That's incredibly honoring, and I know I've already thanked you for that, but imposter syndrome is very real. So yeah, if there are people listening who also feel like they are a fledgling artist, just keep going, because we're doing it technically for us, not for them,
Right.
So,
exactly. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to do this podcast, because I do get tons of people ask me they ask me really awesome questions that unfortunately 280 characters is nowhere near enough to answer their questions with. Right. But the other thing is, like, I would be a lone voice in talking about like how I specifically made it in this industry, or what I charge, or what I do, and that isn't very helpful for anyone else who isn't. I mean, one, you can't follow my path because that doesn't exist anymore like that, so listening to other artists and how they got started, or how they currently work, or their business models, makes a world of difference. I had somebody ask me, like, what do I charge for maps? And I was like, okay, I'm going to give you my answer, but just so you know, you can't ask that yet. And it's not because your work isn't there, it's because your name isn't. And all of us, when we start, absolutely, we barely charge for the work that we do, mostly because we think that it's not worth it, or nobody would pay that amount. And it isn't until we actually start going that we're like, oh shit, no, someone actually will, and this is awesome. And we just, like, some of us really slowly inch it up, and then there's people like me that it's like, yeah, no, $4,000 for a world map.
As you should, as you absolutely should.
Oh yes. But I mean, the thing is, like, when I talked to my friend who was like, how much do you charge for a map? And I was like, okay, so for a world map, I charge about $4,000. And he was like, I know. Like, that's a lot of money. No, it is. Absolutely is.
Yeah.
But it also, like, you've seen my maps. They're incredibly detailed. This is for 3 or more weeks of me communicating with somebody back and forth. I charge for email conversations. If you need to have a voice chat with me, that's included. Like, there's a ton of communication going back and forth, changes, everything else that are involved in me creating maps. Plus, it is you paying my salary for those weeks where I can't advertise. I can't share this stuff if we're doing a commercial project. I have nothing for all of that time. It has to be worth me losing marketing, me losing time doing other projects that would make, money in that time, or that I could make into a passive income so I didn't have to constantly hustle. Like, it has to be worth your time. So absolutely, if you are able to, there aren't really, maps are a little bit different. So it's not like the same with doing like portrait work, where there's a little bit more of an industry standard, because like a lot of people are like, oh, it's I think, what is it? The average is like $250 for a bust, $500 for, full body or 3/4 body or I don't remember what the rates are, so please nobody quote me.
No, you're pretty much spot on, at least from the
Okay.
ones that I've seen, because a lot of my prices are compared with other artists, I feel like, at my level,
Right.
and that feels correct.
Right. So, you know, around there. So, I mean, and they absolutely should be. But the problem is, you know, the reason that that's not true with maps is one, because if I made maps where I had the ability of using more brushes and didn't have to draw everything by hand, it would be different.
This actually reminds me of something I was going to say. I have highly expedited my process of creating, and I feel like it has helped so much, especially because I am mainly a commission artist, to be able to, I don't want to say be a machine, because I don't think we should have to be absolute machines to be in this career. That's not always the case. But I like working fast. I work on multiple commissions at once. I can finish a piece in a day if a commissioner is communicating with me. And I like that. It makes me feel fulfilled, and I don't ever feel exhausted. Actually, I feel exhausted when I have commissions that take me weeks. I feel very frustrated. Like you were saying before, like there's things that you charge for in your prices that are important to think about. And one of them, I think, is also your speed. Because if you are creating faster, that shouldn't technically mean that you should charge less just because you're paying by the hour, which is why I don't technically pay hourly. I got an approximate.
Oh yeah, same thing. It's one of the reasons why instead of charging hourly, because there's one, every map is so different. Everyone gives me such a different level of information for their draft, or like there's so many factors involved in me making, especially world maps, that it's like, well, there's no average. So I have to kind of go with on average of how much communication I have with people, on average of how much reading I usually have to do for some reason. All the other things that I get to actually factor around making the map, those I get to like, okay, this is normally what happens. So I know to charge for those immediately. And then, you know, everything else is just sort of rounded off. That will never change no matter how fast I get with a map.
Do you require payment up front, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh yeah, no, you can ask me just about anything.
Okay.
So it depends. For the most part, yes. Depending on the project, if somebody doesn't have the money right away, but they are able to, like, I happen to have like an opening in my calendar, I'll be like, okay, you can put down a deposit, you know, of like, let's say like $500 or whatever. And then nobody gets the final piece until I'm paid.
Good. It's good.
Yeah. I can't stress that enough. Nobody should get your final piece until you have received payment. The amount of bad actors that have come out in this space that absolutely took advantage of other people not realizing like they should be paid up front and instead, you know, didn't get paid. If you like, a perfect example is I work with some companies that have like Kickstarters, and they're like, oh, I can't really pay you into the Kickstarter. You're still going to put down a deposit. So I minimally get paid. And that's one of the reasons why my deposit is higher. Like, it's like, okay, well, my deposit then at that point is 50% down. Because if you're relying on a Kickstarter to pay me, then I need the minimum I need to live for that project. This is just something that we should be doing as artists to begin with, simply because the amount of people that get screwed over, that don't get paid, that get paid less than what they want, and I've actually heard people say things like, well, the Kickstarter didn't do as good as I was hoping, so I don't have the money to pay you.
Yep. Yeah. It's a scary world out there. And I also think that not requesting payment up front or partial, which I will get into in a second, you're almost inviting as I've dubbed throughout this recording, the assholes to request commissions from you, because they see you don't pay up front, and that gives them perfect opportunity. And those people do exist, and you won't get them if you require payment up front.
Right.
Like I said, I feel like I'm going to jinx it because I keep saying it. I have not had that situation yet. But I have, at least from what I can remember, maybe not right when I started, but I have almost always required payment up front. Before we start, not necessarily get onto the queue, just before we start.
Only my patrons can join my queue. That is one of the reasons that I do it that way. One, because even if you're just paying $5 a month or $1 a month for that matter, I at least know that you're serious enough that you're willing to become a patron. If you're not even willing to like pay $1 a month to be a part of my queue, then you're not going to pay me the money that I'm asking for to do the finished project.
An issue I've had recently actually is people not like you say, if people take the time to join your Patreon, that's a good sign. Right. People message me from posts, especially Facebook. I hate using Facebook, but I do because there are people on there that will message me from a post that has my commission info on it. Message me and ask for my commission info from me instead of going to the link that I had directed them to in the first place. And as someone who likes clarification a lot, I get it, but the amount of people that come before even looking at the link at all drives me a little wacko.
So if you go on my website and you click the contact button, it says in big fucking letters that my commissions are closed. And then when you fill out the contact form, and it even tells you, I think it now says like commission information with a button to press to find out if my commissions are open. And then in the form that you fill out, it asks you whether or not you even looked at that page to find out. And if you're asking for commissions, and inevitably on a near weekly basis, I will have somebody that'll message me asking me about my commissions, whether or not they're open and how much I charge on a page that they filled out where it specifically states that they're not open and here's where to go and get more information.
We're coming back to the common sense isn't common sense anymore.
It's, you know what? People's reading comprehension skills have greatly lowered as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I was going to say, I actually don't, I used to, but I don't take payment anymore in like a 50% or payment plan. Specifically because it is much harder for me to track for my bookkeeping.
Right.
So that's why I always say you can pay up front. I'll give you the time to make the money. But all at once, it's a lot easier for me to track, especially with PayPal and PayPal fees. That's the dinger. So, and then I was also going to say with that, so I use Patreon to invoice people. May I ask what you use for invoicing?
I don't invoice.
What,
I mean, I do in that I type up something and email it to them.
Okay. Do they pay you through PayPal?
They pay me through my website mostly.
Okay. One day
I have I have a lovely little product listing on my website where you can pay for specifically however you want, whether it's PayPal or credit card or whatever, to pay for any portion of a project that we're working on.
Do you feel having a place where people can also use their credit card or debit card, you may get more work than just PayPal?
Yes, absolutely.
You're really making me consider spending money on a website, Devin. I don't have the money.
So you can. As much as I love that, PayPal's like, oh yeah, you can use any credit card. If you've gone to pay for something and you have a PayPal account and they force you to sign in, it won't let you use your credit card. It's so fucking annoying. And I'm like, oh my God, I just want to, I don't have the money in PayPal. I don't want to use PayPal. It's for my business. I want to use my business card. Please let me use my business. I hate you. Now I got to sign back out, go back in. Like, oh, it's so fucking annoying.
Yeah. I primarily, like, there's other ones that I think some people use, like Venmo. We don't have that in Canada. So I strictly use PayPal. But I was going to say before, I changed it recently on my invoice. It says paying this in, I'm going to say it dumber than I have written there, I'm sure. But paying this invoice means that you have read the terms and conditions. And that is the one thing that I've added.
Why does it sound like you don't have contracts?
I don't have contracts.
Okay, that's it. That's it. Okay, we're having a whole other discussion.
I don't know any commissioners at least at my level, that do contract work, other than what is in written form in their messaging and through
No,
PayPal. Yeah,
no,
I'm
no,
not
no.
joking.
Every single artist, I don't care what the fuck you make. I don't care. If somebody is hiring you to create something for them, it could be super simplistic, but have a contract.
So what
And
kind of stuff do you think is most important, like the reasoning for the contract?
okay, so
I'm ready.
I'm going to end up with a whole other episode with this, with Lauren Walsh, because she's actually really good with this, and we've had the conversation, and we're just trying to find
I'll
our
be sure to
scheduling.
listen.
Yeah. One of the biggest reasons that you should have a contract is as much as, well, one, if you're an artist that's outside of the country of the person that's hiring you, if you don't have a contract with them and you just have like something loosely stated, you have nothing to stand on to get your money. You need to prove that this person specifically hired you for a specific amount to have something specifically done. And a contract covers all of those bases. But even better, if they are signing a contract where you specifically state, like, there is no commercial use of this, even if they're in another country, they are bound by it because they signed it in their country. So as long as their country has laws that, hey, you entered a contract, said you wouldn't use it commercially, you have a leg to stand on in court. And that's huge. That's important. Because right now, if you don't have a contract with somebody and they're like, yeah, I pay this person to make this art for me, and they go and use it commercially, you don't have anywhere saying that they can't. So legally they can. And if whatever they're doing with it takes off, they don't even have to credit you as an artist if you don't have your name on it, or you don't state anywhere that they have to credit you.
Oh man, I think my biggest worry is I have commissioned people before, and I've also have friends who regularly commissions people, and I don't think any of them have ever signed a contract. And I think one of my worries is that if I implement this contract, which absolutely should be done, is people will be like, oh, I don't want to sign anything because it's that extra step.
Never had that happen.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I have such a fear of doing something that will lose more customers now that I've already lost so much from AI.
Well, no, it's super. What you do is, so you're talking with somebody who wants to hire you for something. You go, okay, great. By the way, for your protection, here's my contract. So you know exactly what you're getting. It's also a great way to clarify the actual project that you're doing, to give them in writing everything that's going on. And it doesn't have to be huge legal jargon or anything. It's just simply, hello, my name is, XYZ. I'm the artist. This is what I'm making. This is the project scope. This is how much it is. This is the deadline. This is how much revisions are. And this person is commissioning, this piece from me, and they're going to put down X amount of dollars as a deposit, and with the remaining X amount of dollars due upon completion.
I was just going to say, do you have like a base contract that you have found online that works well for artists? Because I'm 100% sure there's a lot of people like me
I know
at my level who don't do contracts. And like I said, that's why I added it into my PayPal, because at least it's there. But you're right. Technically, if I ever came across an issue, they could absolutely fight that. So do you have a base that people can use, one you found online or something like that?
I will take the one that I use and I will make it a little bit more generic, because it's something that I typed up, because I, again, had the glorious experience of learning how to create contracts and everything else from my previous business, or occupation, excuse me. But I will type up something and make it available online for artists to be a little bit more generic.
And that'd be wonderful.
I'm going to get Lauren on here. I'm going to have Lauren come on here and like, hey, let's talk about this, because she and I are super passionate about this. It is one of the there's very few people who don't understand wanting to protect artists, because we do have our stuff stolen. There's so many. I've had somebody. I had somebody that didn't even contract me to make a map, but instead purchased one of my maps and then decided that he could share it freely because he paid me $5 for it.
Yikes. Yeah, I've seen that happen with Patreon before, where people will share the art or the maps or the items, D&D items, with people who did not pay for it.
Exactly. So, you can, and by the way, especially in the US, there are nonverbal contracts, which are, obviously the things that we sign, but there is absolutely verbal contracts. And this includes things like discussions on Discord or emails or even social media. If you can prove that you had a conversation with the person and they're well aware that they couldn't use it commercially, or that they were only paying for a certain amount or a certain use of it, that is proof.
That's kind of what I've been depending on. I know I can feel you bonking me on the head for this, but that's what I've been depending on, is that I believe that is also the case in Canada. Could be wrong. I'm sure I'll get corrected. But that's absolutely what I've depended on throughout the past. Because I do get anxious.
It's only going to take one person stealing your stuff for you to go, why didn't I have a contract?
Absolutely, it will. That's what I'm thinking right at this moment.
Right. The other thing is, like, the majority of people, especially with what I do, a lot of people don't hesitate to sign contracts because, a lot of stuff I do is commercial.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit different. The other thing is I think that a lot of people, especially as the whole controversy with AI came out, I think a lot of people are starting to really realize, like, how much artists are taken advantage of. A perfect example is, like, the argument with AI is the reason that a lot of these companies claim that they can freely use everything on the internet is because it exists on the internet. Like, oh, if you didn't want your art stolen, you shouldn't have posted it on the internet.